brainstorming sounds so simple, yet it's so hard. And I don't know how many people actually experienced brainstorming that felt, wow, we are creative and, we got this, that kind of thing. What's your experience like with brainstorming?
I mean, brainstorming is just one of those things that you think is simple, but actually, as you get into it, you get confronted with the complexities. I think a lot of the complexity really comes from the room, actually, like, or rather, like with the people that you're brainstorming with, right?
A lot of times people come with fear, or rather they link brainstorming with fear. It's because they had so much bad experiences, right?
Hmm.
So whenever you mention that word, suddenly the only connotation they have it's with negative emotions or negative feelings they had from their past
Mm.
experiences. So I guess it's to help them move from that space where there's all these negative emotions to the possibilities that it can have. It's about helping them to visualize some other possibility other than what they have in their heads right now.
We may start from the place of fear, and how do we bring them to have that confidence that we can be creative, right? So
Yeah.
what kind of negative emotions do you guys observe? I mean,
I just ran one this morning, to be very honest, and we were talking
Mm.
about moving from having your own desk to an activity-based workspace, which means hot desking. And they were so resistant to it because they thought about hot desk as, I'm just having this empty desk and I just come here and work and then I just disappear, right? So when I asked them to sort of ideate the possibilities of what hot desking to be, they couldn't because they were so negative about the idea of hot desking. They just resisted it. They just gave me a whole set of problems that revolves around hot desking and why the fixed desk is the better thing.
Give them space to kind of like air out all the negative thoughts or
Yeah.
emotions, and then kind of like get them to move to a different space already. Yeah, because I think there's only so much negativity that they can project. And
Yeah.
then I think after a while they can read the room. Nobody's really keen on like staying in that negative space.
Mm.
And it gets very tiring. So then maybe
Mm.
they'll move on. Yeah.
Point that John mentioned about the venting, I think it's I agree with it, right?
Hmm.
So people may come in negative, but if you give them that space to first vent, they would move out of that. Okay, I've really said my piece. Now
Hmm.
let's look at what we can be. So if you didn't allow them to vent, then chances are
Yeah.
it could be even harder. But that venting actually does help them to shift.
It
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
reminds
actually,
me of the method that we often talk about, right? So in order to move people from this place of negativity to possibilities, giving or honoring that venting is necessary, that we understand that
yeah.
there are resistance to change, and we kind of embrace the negativity not as a bad thing, but as a part of process of getting there. So before we move on to ideation, we talk about negative things first. Hey, why wouldn't this work at all? And then once people vent out all the negativity out, then we are able to kind of channel them back to the path of possibilities. So I think this is
Yeah.
some sort of embracing, this negativity is such a valuable process.
When people are actually venting and keep telling you that, oh, these ideas won't work, or this is the reason why it sucks and so on, they're actually giving you kind of like tips as to, okay, these are the things you should look out for, these are the things that you need to kind of like navigate around at the later part of your project. Brainstorming, as much as it is the ideation phase of like the design thinking process, right, it can also be the discovery phase of the process, actually, if you think
Hmm.
about it.
I like
Yeah, because
that.
you're using it
So
to kind of like
seeing,
discover new inputs.
yeah,
Yeah.
seeing negativity as a discovery process. Love it.
Design thinking starts with pain points, right? Empathy, we empathize with pain points, right?
Hmm.
Brainstorming session, yeah, it tends to be a mine for pain points, lah. Yeah.
Love that. So do you guys always experience negativity? Do you think it's normal in the workplace when it comes to brainstorming? With some sort of negative people or opinions or resistance to change, or it doesn't have to be that way?
Like if there's no negativity, again, I'll be quite worried, and I might personally inject some negativity.
If you've created a safe
Yeah.
space, chances are they would
Yeah.
be they would try to be real with you, right? So they would want to put up their honest, frustrations or
Correct. Yeah.
or the worries that they have.
Like once you create that safe space, I think whether the inputs given is it negative or positive, right? It's all good, because like the thing that you want is for people to contribute freely without like censoring themselves or holding each other back, that kind of thing.
A lot of times people are very focused on outcomes of the brainstorming, right? What we're going to get, what's the best idea we're going to get out of it. Actually, brainstorming is actually a process and people have to experience it, right? And that process is as valuable as the outcomes that you're going to create, because the process helps in that whole change of mindset and the change of how people perceive the entire project or the entire problem in the first place. So I think if they do come in with negativity and if they've shifted from that space right in the beginning, it's still a win for us. Yeah.
Design thinking start with empathy. And what if we see the negativity coming out of people with the empathetic mindset that is coming from maybe they don't want to change, which is very human nature, isn't it? Also, it's a way of them raising their concerns or pointing out any other points that we need to be mindful of. So really starting with the place of empathy, I think is really great way of dealing with this negativity to start with. What you guys mentioned a couple of times, creating safe place. Can you tell me more about that?
I think that creating a safe space, it's not just for brainstorming. I think in the workspace, the more safe spaces you can create, the more innovative and the more productive your team will be.
I've always liked this particular quote from Steve Jobs. The only people who are able to change the world are really the ones who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world. I endeavor to make people think as crazy as possible. You have to get them to think crazy, go into those wild spaces in order to potentially come up with a single good idea that might just win the day. Because what they're comfortable with might not necessarily be what the customer needs in order to resolve the particular pain, right?
Really, unless we are outside this comfort zone, unless we are able to taste this area that is wild and uncomfortable, we never be able to, come up with something novel, something completely new, right? Having this psychological safety doesn't have to come from, being able to say an idea or crazy idea or new idea. For me, what was really important to be able to add value in the process was to being able to ask questions. So typically we think brainstorming means coming up with ideas. What if we think about brainstorming as it's a process of asking questions? I put kind of a bumper sticker. So since I'm a consultant, I don't know very much about the industry, but allow me to ask you a naive question. So that kind of bumper sticker helped me to have courage and then ask questions. And because of that, I was able to come up with new ideas or help others to come up with new ideas. This connection between the creativity, we think about ideas, but actually creativity is more about asking questions.
I'm sort of channeling into the brainstorming space and how that curiosity actually helps as well. Like you want to know, like, oh, why is this person thinking like that? Or why is this what is he thinking when he has this idea, right? And sort of feed off each other's unknowns in that sense. And as you talk about these unknowns, it gets clearer and clearer as a team as well.
Same as empathy, right? When we say empathy, people often associate empathy with personal trait. You are naturally empathetic. Curiosity, I think, is the same way. Like people say, oh yeah, my child is very curious. We tend to approach it as a personality, something you are born with. Whereas curiosity can be something that we can develop if we reframe the term, right? Yeah, you are allowed to ask naive questions so that people don't say, hey, actually, I'm not a very curious person. That kind of, like they keep a distance from that concept.
Encouraging people to go wilder, right? And you do this kind of crazy mashups.
True. Exactly. That is very good of way of, expanding your curiosity or make people feel curious.
Oh, sorry.
This topic is so philosophical, like brainstorming seemingly so simple. We have rules of brainstorming, but it's like, oh my God, like we are touching on so many deep philosophical topics.